Safety. It's a big thing in the workshop. If you don't feel safe doing something or you just don't feel comfortable, don't do it. You're the only person who can keep you safe. And if you don't do it, no one else can.
Well, good morning. Welcome to the shop. Today I'm going to be doing a little coring, and I'll show you my method. This method would work for any coring system that pivots around a fixed point, around an arc. Like the one-way coring system or the bowl saver coring system. Here we have a small bowl, but we will be able to get at least one other bowl from it. So coring is certainly worth it. So the first thing you have to do, there's 4 steps really. One is determine where you think the bottom of the bowl is going to be. So what I tend to do is look at this profile, continue it round as if it was continued round, and I think that just about the middle of this tenon is where I'll consider the bottom of the bowl is going to be when it's all finished. In fact, I'll come to this flat face here because I don't think I want to go down to this smaller diameter. So I'm going to say this is going to be my bottom of the bowl when it's finished. So I'll mount the bowl. Now you can see this face, I already put some lines on it, but how you do that is, the basic rule of thumb is 10% for drying. You need 10%, so you take the diameter of the bowl, this is just a touch over 11 inches, and 10% of that is 1.1 inch. 1.1 inch, which is there. And of course what you do, is mark that 1.1. Then you need 3/8 of an inch. That's the width of my cutter, whatever width your cutter is. I'm going to put another line here. And that's where the cutter is going to go through. So that means the next bowl, the outside edge of the next bowl, I'm just going to take this middle off because it's sticking out and it's in the way. We don't need it. Better to have a flat surface really. So I'll just machine that up. There, that's a little easier to work with. So the next bowl is 8 inches. We've got an 8-inch diameter bowl. So 0.8 of an inch is the there it is. There's the width of the cutter. So there is potentially a third bowl, just a little tiny one here, of let's see, you put that on 1 inch, 5.25 inches. So 0.55, near enough. So there's the 3 cut points, entry points that we could use, that we're going to use. So we don't need this anymore. Let's put that out the way, around there. Just to be safe, I'm going to take that out. Now, I use a one-way coring system with my homegrown support here. So, with the one-way coring system, you have one support here that is for your cutter, and the cutter pivots about that point. And you have another support which is for the support for the knife. So now I like to start and take the middle out first, then the next one, then the next one. So if we drop our cutter in, we can see that this is going to have to go over somewhere about around there. And I'm guessing it will be back about there. So there's 3 points for setting it up. 3 dimensions. We need the cutter to swing in and cut into this line, but we also have to determine where the cutter is going to be at the bottom. And in the center of the bowl, which is what we use, I have the center point marked here on the end. That's the center of this shaft, that little hole. So that's the point that it's going to rotate around. So I have a pair of calipers here that I've bent this end down and made a point so that it will fit in that little hole. There. And I set the other end to this diameter here. There. So it just fits the outside. Now we need that to be where we said the bottom was going to be, and in the middle of the bowl. And we need that under there. So a little bit of a fiddle. Just have to get that on the center of the bowl. You can see this is going to be quite shallow. Loosen this up, move it out of the way. We're really a little bit small here. It'll be much easier when we get to this one and this one. So we line up the cutting, we set the radius to the outside here and the radius to the bottom of the bowl here. Oh yes, that's lining up quite good now. I'm looking down over the top of this. Yes, that's good. I'm in the middle of the bowl here. And I'm over that center spot and I'm lined up here and I'm going to cut in the corner there. So very close to the position we want to be. Just going to be a little shallow scoop to scoop that little center out of there, and then we'll move out to the next one and we'll do the same thing again out at the next one. So now a couple more things. Each cutter in the one-way system has its own support blade. And that's a blade it mimics this, but to start off we'll just use the end of it there. We'll tighten down the base. So now we have some support for our cutter tip out there. And I have also use a center, live center in the tailstock. And I have a 16-inch bar here that has a point one end and a hollow the other end that goes on the center, on the live center. And I set this in the center of the work job, pretty well in the middle, close enough to the middle. And I tighten that in, tighten the tailstock with the live center against the shaft, and that pushes on the bottom here. So it will be very tough for the bowl to come out of the chuck now. And make sure it's tight, because this is wet wood and it will compress. Okay, so we're all set to take the middle out. I'm in just on 7,500 RPM. And periodically I have a mark here. When that gets to here, I swivel this around and put the blade inside there and line up the outside edge out here so that it's supported all the way in. Tighten it up. Yeah. So that support unit supports the blade. The cutter is on the center this way. Yeah, that's what happens when that little piece. Actually, I guess you could say that was a bowl. Yeah. So if we didn't do this, we'd just be turning it all out in chips, and we'd end up with just one bowl. So now we do the same thing again. We have to line up the entrance point to the, so the cutter goes in where we've marked here, and we set this to that diameter. The outside edge of the bowl, the outside edge here of the big bowl, and we want to go from the back to a point. Oh, it's right on. So I'm in the middle of the bowl here, against that face that we said was going to be the bottom, and using my eye I line that up, and it's in the perfect spot. Yeah, so we just tighten this down. We tighten this so the support is underneath it. Tighten that down. Put our bar back in, roughly where the middle is. Tighten up the tailstop. Yeah. And we're all set again. Slow it down a touch. About 680, 660. Just about there. I go in until this point here comes up to here. And then I push that up further again, line it up out here. Make sure it's clear. And away we go again. is our first usable bowl, maybe just a little tiny dish for something to put a couple of rings in or something like that. And of course the important thing is that the wall thickness is pretty even all the way around. There. Oh, it's just a touch thinner on the bottom, but that's okay, because when wood dries it will warp more out here on the edge than it does on the bottom. So there's a little dish. Now for this next one, we're going to go to a bigger cutter. Bigger cutter set. And now you should select your cutter based on the nearest you have to the diameter you're cutting. This was about a 9-inch bowl roughly, and this cutter has got about a 5 3/4 radius, so 9-inch. This is a little big, but it's the closest we've got. Ideally it would be about 4.5-inch radius. So this one is just under 6, and this one, oh actually this one is 4 3/4, just perfect. So I'm going to switch back to this one. I was wrong. So it pays to measure. I really would have been nice to have had a smaller one for doing these, but I don't have one. So okay. So adjust it again, same thing. What we're doing is setting the pivot point of this cutter on a radius, on the center point of it, to suit the bowl. If you think of it, if I'm in the center point there and I've on the outside radius here, and if that is the outside radius here, I should have the same thickness as this inside on the bottom. Touch. Touch more. If this center point is too far this way, the thickness on the bottom will be thin. And if the center of this point is too far out, the thickness on the bottom will be fatter, will be thicker. So when you're setting this one, you want to be in about the middle of the bowl here and vertically right over this point here. And that's got to be the same measurement to the outside edge outside edge of the bowl here. And when you lock that down, this pivot point, yeah, it's right over it there. And it's right here. Yeah. We're all set. Okay. Just one thing, nearly forgot. Set my bar up to hold it in the chuck and to support it when it's cut. Find the centre. Into position. It doesn't have to be right on. See how that's running out a little bit there. Could be better than that though, couldn't it? How's that? Oh yeah. Pretty good. Sorry about my touch. Down about 500 and 530. 533. Put the dust extractor on, there's a lot of dust and chips. You can see there how that support for the tool is underneath it as it cuts. There. So, how did we do with this one? Pretty good. So, a nice little dish there, and there's a bowl here. So, we ended up with 3 bowls or dishes, a couple of little dishes and a bowl from that one blank, rather than all this being chips down on the ground if we just turn that out. Okay, so with the last one, now this cutter was pretty good for the size, so I suspect the walls will not be too bad, but I usually have a little bit of a fat bottom just here. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. That would help if I went the right way. There. Oh, it's pretty good. It is a little fatter on the bottom than it is on the side, but nothing to really worry about. Should dry fine. So sometimes when you've turned the outside by hand, you have a bit different profile, and you can choose whether you maximize your bowl size by taking more out here and matching that profile, or whether you turn this to be a more of a spherical shape. Okay. So now, whether you're using a one-way system or the bowl saver, it's the same principle. You have a pivot point for your cutter. It's going to cut on a radius, and you have to set that pivot point so that it's a center of this point here and where the bottom of the bowl is going to be. You have to set it to those dimensions when this cutter is in the right position. So first you set the cutter so that it's going to cut on your right position, and then you measure what that radius is, and you want this radius to be the same. And there it is. That's how I do it. Okay.